Today we're going to be talking about properties of numbers. There are four properties we're going to be going over, and we are going to talk about doing some work with these properties as well as identifying these properties. So the first property we have is the commutative properties of addition and multiplication. All right. So the commutative properties of addition and multiplication state that if you have an A plus B, it equals B plus A. So what that means is if I have 3 plus 1, it also equals 1 plus 3. You can switch the order and it will still stay equal. Same with the multiplication. Instead of adding, you're multiplying. So we could do 4 times 2 equals 2 times 4. Okay? Alright, the next property we have is the associative properties of addition and multiplication. The associative properties of addition and multiplication state that you can put parentheses around different sections of each equation, but they will be the same. For example, if I have 3 plus 5 in parentheses plus 2, and I equal that to 3 plus parentheses 5 plus 2, the problem will stay the same, okay? Which means that when you're talking about the order of operations, you always do the things that are in the parentheses first. So for example, on this side of the problem, we would do 5 plus 3 first, which is 8. And then we would add 2. Alright, whereas this side, we would add the 5 plus 2 first, so we would do 3 plus 5 plus 2 is 7. Alright, and as you know, 8 plus 2 is 10, and 3 plus 7 are 10, so they are still equal. The same idea applies with multiplication as well. So if we do 5 times 2 times 2 equals, we could do 5 times 2 times 2. Alright, so in this side we would do 5 times 2 first, which is 10, times 2 equals 5 times 2 times 2 is 4. Alright, and as you know, 10 times 2 is 20, and 5 times 4 is 20, so they are equal again. Alright, so that's the associative properties of both addition and multiplication. Our third property is the identity properties of both addition and multiplication. The identity property of addition states that any number plus 0 equals the original number. Alright, so for example, 3 plus 0 is going to equal 3. Alright, and the identity property of multiplication is a little different. It's any number times 1 equals A. Alright, so if we were to do 3 times 1, it would equal 3. Okay, so the identity properties of addition and multiplication differ because instead of adding and multiplying 0, you're actually adding 0 in the addition, and you're multiplying by 1 in the multiplication. Alright, so I have two examples here that are ideas of identifying some properties. identifying some properties. So if you look at A first, we have 6 times negative 7 times 3 equals 6 times 3 times negative 7. Think about what property that would that problem would be associated with. If you thought of the commutative property of multiplication, you were correct. All right. And in B, we have n times 1 equals n equals n. Think about what it could be. If you said the identity property of multiplication, you are also correct. All right. And the last property we have to talk about today is the distributive property. The distributive property is used to multiply a single term and 2 or more terms inside a set of parentheses. So for example, we have A times the quantity B plus C. And what we can do here is we can actually multiply A times B and then A times C. So for example, in this problem, we can do 6 times 2, and then we can do 6 times 4x. So 6 times 2 is 12, plus 6 times 4x is 24x. All right. So in this case, we cannot finish the problem because they are two different terms. This does not have x, and this does. But it helps a lot to draw the arrows or the lines connecting the two. So we'll do some more examples. All right. So we have 2 times the quantity x plus 3. So I can do 2 times x and then 2 times positive 3. Okay, so we have 2x plus, and 2 times 3 is 6. All right. Now, we'll do number 2. So we have 5 times n, and then we have 5 times negative 7. I want you to notice that because it's subtracted, that subtraction sign goes with the number that it is in front of. So in this case, it would be positive 5n minus 35. And the reason being is that 5 times negative 7 is negative 35. So while you're doing the distributive property, you really, really, really need to make sure that you are carrying the signs with the numbers or variables. We're going to skip number 3, but number 4 is another important one. In this case, we have a negative sign outside the parentheses. So we're multiplying a negative 6 times A, and then a negative 6 times 4. So in this case, we'd have negative 6, A, all right. And then in this case, we have negative 6 times positive 4, so it would be negative 24. All right, now what I want you to notice is that I'm not writing plus negative 24. The reason being is that as you're getting into more complicated problems, it can get confusing having more than one sign in between numbers. So I would just keep it as minus 24. Okay? All right. Some more practice. So we have 7 times quantity y plus 3. Think about what it would be. If you guessed 7y plus 21, you are correct. All right. Next one, we have 8 times quantity m minus 1. If you did 8m minus 8, you are correct. All right. Looking at the last two, 5 times quantity 4x minus 5 would be 20x minus 25. Negative 9 times quantity 4 plus 2n would be negative 36 minus 18. n. All right, so that concludes today's lesson, talking all about properties of numbers. So we have the commutative, associative, identity, and distributive properties.